My vocal range, I think for singer, vocal range is not most important thing. It's just like a good bonus, you know. Most important thing is you're singing from your heart.
Imagine a singer who opens with a deep, chest-rumbling bass note, the kind you feel in your stomach, then climbs, within the same song, higher than most trained sopranos can ever reach. Clean. No cracks. No strain. Just effortless, impossible sound. Now imagine he's a 22-year-old from Kazakhstan. And when he stepped onto China's biggest singing competition, surrounded by seasoned professionals, the 500-person jury froze. Some cried. Veterans who had spent their lives studying the human voice looked at each other and asked, "Is this actually real?" That singer is Dimash Kudaibergen. And today, we fix the fact that you don't know his name. Where does a voice like this even come from? Dimash Kudaibergen, full name Dimash Kudaibergen, was born on May 24, 1994, in Aktobe, Kazakhstan. Now, before your brain does anything unhelpful with the word Kazakhstan, let me stop you right there. Kazakhstan is a vast, deeply cultured nation in Central Asia with centuries of rich musical tradition. And Dimash is, in every sense, the product of that tradition colliding with world-class classical training. His parents, Kanat and Svetlana, are both accomplished musicians. His mother is a soprano singer at the Aktobe Philharmonic Society. So yes, this boy came into the world already surrounded by music. But the person who truly first recognized the gift? His grandmother, Mayua. According to his family, despite having pain in her legs, she took little Dimash to his music lessons every single day. Every single day. Think about that. Behind almost every extraordinary talent, there is someone who believed first, before the world, before the cameras, before the applause, who quietly sacrificed so that the gift could grow. For Dimash, that was his grandmother. By age 5, he was already taking violin and singing lessons and performing on stage. While most kids that age were concerned with cartoons and snacks, this child was already learning how to make a room feel something. He went on to graduate from the Ahmed Zubinov Music College in Aktobe, specializing in bel canto, the classical Italian singing technique that demands total mastery of breath, resonance, and tonal control. He then moved to the capital to study jazz and contemporary pop at the Kazakh National University of Arts, earning a master's degree in composition with a perfect score. He was even recommended for the PhD program. He plays the piano, violin, dombra, that's a traditional Kazakh string instrument, guitar, drums, and xylophone. He sings proficiently in at least 8 languages. He performs opera and rock and folk and jazz, not as a party trick, but at the highest professional level in every single genre. This is not a man who stumbled into singing. This is a man who was built, note by note, year by year, into something the world had never quite seen before. So with that kind of talent and training, what happens when the world actually gets to hear him? The competition that changed everything. By 2015, Dimash was already a big deal within Kazakhstan and across post-Soviet countries. But the moment that first announced him to an international audience came at the Slaviansky Bazaar in Vitebsk, Belarus, one of the most prestigious international singing competitions in the world. Dimash walked in and won the Grand Prix. But it wasn't just the win that mattered. It was what the jury said about him. The chairman described Dimash as possessing 3 voices in one: a low voice, a middle voice, and what he called altino, a rare tonal quality, and said he deployed all 3 professionally. Not as a curiosity, professionally, with control, with artistry, with intention. He scored 175 out of 180 points. 3 voices in one, from a single human throat. But if Slaviansky Bazaar put Dimash on the map in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, it was 2017 that turned him into a phenomenon the scale of which is genuinely hard to describe. A Chinese TV producer named Hong Tao had heard of this young Kazakh singer and invited him, just 22 years old, to compete on I Am a Singer, the most competitive, most prestigious singing show in China. And I want you to understand what that means. This was not a beginner's talent show. The other contestants were established, award-winning Chinese artists who had been in the industry for years, some for decades. Dimash walked in as a wild card, a young outsider from Kazakhstan, competing against the heavyweights of Chinese pop music. His own mother said she just hoped he would make it to the middle rounds. Episode 1. January 2017. Dimash steps out and performs SOS d'un Terrien en détresse, a French rock opera song from 1978. He sings it in French. And as his voice builds and then unleashes, the audience does not know what to do with itself. People are frozen. Then they are on their feet. Then they are crying. Then they are turning to each other with the specific expression of someone who has just witnessed something they cannot explain. He won episode 1. Then episode 2. He made it all the way to the finale, the wild card outsider, and finished runner-up to the legendary Sandy Lamb. The numbers that followed were staggering. Within 1 week, Dimash gained over 3 million followers on Sina Weibo, China's largest social media platform. His album went platinum in China in 37 seconds. Not days, not hours, 37 seconds. The Global Times called him a symbol of Sino-Kazakh relations. Music critics called him a phenomenon. And back home in Kazakhstan, President Nazarbayev received him personally and called him the face of Kazakhstan's independence. Overnight, Dimash became one of the most talked about artists in Asia. And from there, the world, or at least most of it, started to pay attention. The applause and viral fame are impressive, but what makes his voice truly impossible? The voice. Let's actually break this down. Okay, let's talk science. Because if you're going to understand why this man is special, you need to understand what his voice actually does, and why it shouldn't be possible. The average trained singer has a vocal range of about 2 octaves. A skilled professional might have 2.5 or 3. Mariah Carey, one of the most celebrated vocal technicians of her generation, famous for her whistle register, has a documented range of approximately 5 octaves. Dimash Kudaibergen has a documented range of 6 octaves. His lowest recorded note is A2/F2. That's in the deep bass register, lower than most men can comfortably sing. His highest recorded note is D8, sitting in the whistle register, above the ceiling of most trained soprano women. Between those 2 points is an almost incomprehensible span of human vocal ability. But here's the thing, and this is what separates him from a circus act. It's not just the range. Anyone can make a strangled high-pitched squeak and slap a label on it. What Dimash does is completely different. He moves between his bass, tenor, alto, and coloratura soprano registers with no audible breaks, no cracks, no gear shifts. The transitions are seamless. He has compared himself to a sports car that can smoothly accelerate from 0 to 200, except the car is his voice, and the 200 is a D8 that could shatter your heart from across an arena. He has performed this across genres that don't normally coexist in a single career. Opera? Yes. Pop ballads? Yes. Hard rock? Yes. Jazz standards? Yes. Traditional Kazakh folk music? Yes. World-class level, all of them. His versatility has drawn comparisons to Freddie Mercury for his rock power and theatrical charisma, to Pavarotti for his operatic control and breath mastery, and to Andrea Bocelli for the emotional depth and tenderness he brings to romantic ballads. 3 completely different legends. One singer, at the Gaku Open Air Festival in Almaty, performing to a crowd of 150,000 people, Dimash hit that D8 live. Not in a studio, not with editing, live, in front of 150,000 human beings on a Saturday night in Kazakhstan. And perhaps most powerfully, through all the technique, all the octaves, all the register switching, what his fans come back to again and again is not the acrobatics. It's the feeling. Dimash has spoken about this directly. Range, he says, is not the most important thing. What matters is the ability to convey emotion and connect with an audience. The technique is the vehicle. The emotion is the destination. And that is why people cry at his concerts. Not because they are impressed, because they are moved. And if you think that's just about skill, wait until you see the impact he's had on fans around the globe. Let me tell you about the Deers. That's what Dimash's fanbase calls themselves, Deers. And I want to spend a moment here because this fandom is one of the most remarkable things about his entire story. These are not your typical stan accounts. The Deers are doctors, teachers, grandparents, musicians, academics, people from every conceivable background and every corner of the earth, who found Dimash's music and were, in the most literal sense, changed by it. There are documented stories of people who were in some of the darkest periods of their lives, grief, illness, depression, who stumbled onto a Dimash performance on YouTube and felt something shift in their chest. Not because of the vocal range, because of what a voice like that does to you when it finds you at the right moment. His fan clubs span over 120 countries. Fans have learned the Kazakh language just to understand his traditional songs. They have booked international flights to attend his concerts. They translate his interviews and lyrics into dozens of languages for other fans who can't speak the original. They organize charitable events in his name in their home countries. And his tours reflect all of this. We are not talking about a regional celebrity. Dimash has sold out arenas across Asia, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America. And in 2019, he sold out New York's Barclays Center, one of the most iconic arenas in America. Sold out by a singer most Americans had never heard of. Think about the dedication that represents. People flew from across the world to be in that room. Kazakhstan's tourism board even built official fan pilgrimage routes, organized tours that take Dimash's international fans to Aktobe, to the school where he studied, to the halls where he first performed. An entire tourism industry built around one man's voice. But here's the kicker. If his voice is this extraordinary and he has fans everywhere, why hasn't the West heard of him? So why has the West never heard of him? This is the real question. And the answer, if we're being honest, is several uncomfortable things at once. First, the English language media machine has a massive blind spot. The global music industry, especially in the US and UK, is built around a very specific pipeline. Major label deals, radio play, Billboard chart positions, late-night TV appearances, Rolling Stone profiles, Grammy nominations. That pipeline was not built with Central Asian artists in mind. Dimash built his fame in Kazakhstan, Russia, and China, enormous markets in terms of population and cultural reach, but markets that Western entertainment media essentially treats as invisible. There is no structural pathway for a Kazakh-Russian-Chinese pop phenomenon to become a household name in America, unless the American industry decides to build one. And so far it hasn't. Second, he is genuinely, stubbornly impossible to categorize. Dimash is not a pop star in the traditional sense. He's not an opera singer. He's not a folk musician. He's not a rock star. He is all of these things simultaneously at the highest level. And the Western music industry does not know what to do with that. Radio stations don't know which playlist to put him on. Streaming algorithms don't know which listener to recommend him to. He is too broad for the pop charts and too modern for classical purists. That kind of versatility, which should be his greatest commercial asset, becomes an obstacle in an industry built on categories. Third, and this one I want to say plainly, the mainstream Western music conversation consistently undervalues pure vocal artistry. The current media machine rewards viral moments, celebrity drama, catchy hooks, and visual spectacle. It rewards controversy and collabs and carefully engineered chart runs. What it does not reward, at least not structurally, is a man who walks onto a stage with nothing but his voice and proceeds to do something that should not be humanly possible. That kind of talent requires you to stop and listen. And stopping to listen is not what the algorithm is designed to make you do. Fourth, there's the matter of his choices. Dimash has at various points had openings into the Western mainstream. He appeared on CBS's The World's Best in 2019, a major American singing competition produced by Mark Burnett. But he ultimately withdrew from the competition. Accounts vary on the exact reasons, but what is clear is that Dimash has consistently, across his entire career, chosen integrity over opportunity when those two things conflict. He does not chase fame. He does not conform to industry games. He will not dilute his artistry to become more marketable. That is a profoundly admirable quality, and in the short term, it costs him visibility. And then there were the rumors about a vocal injury. At some point, whispers started circulating that Dimash had suffered serious damage to his voice. But there's no verified record of any major career vocal cord injury. In reality, the only recent confirmed health setback was a hand injury in 2024. Inconvenient, yes, but not the kind of thing that sidelines a once-in-a-generation voice. Still, in Western markets, even a brief slowdown can feel like a disappearance. And when you're not constantly in front of the algorithm, it has a short memory. If Dimash were a white American from Los Angeles with this voice, this range, and this training, he would be the most celebrated musician alive right now. 15 Grammy nominations, Netflix documentaries, Time magazine covers. His face would be everywhere. The fact that he comes from Kazakhstan, a country most Westerners cannot locate on a map, creates a ceiling that has nothing to do with talent and everything to do with geography, structural bias, and the way the global entertainment industry decides whose art is worth amplifying. That is the truth of it. And while the world debates why he isn't more famous, there's another side to Dimash you probably don't know. The Dimash you don't know about. Here's what makes this story even richer. Beyond the competitions and the arena tours, Dimash has been building something much larger than a music career. He is an IOM United Nations Goodwill Ambassador, working on the global stage to advocate for the rights and dignity of migrants. He has performed at UNESCO events in Paris. He has performed in front of the presidents of multiple nations simultaneously. In 2022, Pope Francis received him personally and awarded him a commemorative medal, a recognition not given lightly and not given often. He has made the promotion of Kazakh language and culture a personal mission, weaving traditional Kazakh folk elements into his orchestral concerts and his philanthropy, ensuring that as his international profile grows, his roots remain visible and celebrated. He debuted his studio album ID in 2019, and it went platinum in multiple countries. He has collaborated with legendary Russian composer Igor Krutoy on a full orchestral album. He produces his own concerts, self-produced, orchestral, cinematic events that are not just shows but experiences. His concert Badao, meaning beginning in Kazakh, was performed to 30,000 people at Expo 2017 in Astana. He named it Beginning, after everything he had already achieved. A beginning. And the internet slowly is catching up with what the rest of the world already knows. The reaction videos, vocal coaches, professional musicians, opera singers watching Dimash for the first time have racked up millions upon millions of views. The comment sections are full of people writing some version of, "I have never heard of this man in my life, and I am sitting here sobbing and I don't know why." That's Dimash. That's what he does.